Before we watched TV shows and movies on Narcos, and even before Pablo Escobar's rise to fame, there was one man who was the ultimate narco. He lived the narco life of greed, money, and power, but found a way to reclaim his life and use his astonishing experiences to empower others to live a life of hope, meaning, and redemption. Welcome to the Narco Mindset Podcast, where Dr. Jorge Valdes shares his journey through life before and after the Medellin drug cartel, from torture and multiple prison sentences to how he refocused his life onto a path of principles learned as a narco. It's time to share that raw truth with you, right here on the Narco Mindset Podcast, with your host, Dr. Jorge Valdes.
Today on the Narco Mindset Podcast. But the truth of the matter is that when many of us of color make it, the first freaking thing we do is we get our ass out of our community. It's about demanding that our elected officials change these freaking laws and that they make them right so that the crime fits the punishment. So when we said there's no jobs for us, no, there's no job that we have prepared ourselves to have. Just because we have a different color skin does not mean that we have a different brain. We can't force people to love us, but we must change people's perception. Abraham Lincoln said, the fate of humanity lies in the hands of our children. Things must change, and change must begin at home. So unless we begin to do criminal justice reform, and then I ask all these leaders, what is the difference between one cop putting his horrific and sorry ass knee and killing one of us? What is the difference between that and a system that kills millions of us? Damn it. Think about that. We want to burn down a whole country? We want to tell the world that we're animals because we burn down cities? And listen, I can understand the pain. Listen, I've been so angry that I would have been one of those burning down the city. I'm not here to judge them at all. I'm not. But I asked Michael Jordan and I asked these other people, where the hell were you when these laws were created? And why have you allowed these freaking laws to exist? Elected officials don't walk into Washington and say, I am your congressman, I am your senator. Damn it, we vote them in. So why the F don't we give a shit and vote their sorry ass out? Do you realize that a lot of those men that passed those laws in 86 are still in power? So they look at us and they see us burn down our cities. They see us burn down a Target and a Wendy's. They see us kill cops. And, and hatred just portrays itself. It just continues to escalate and escalate. And yes, a lot of companies now are coming forth. And I agree with Ben Jones in his op-ed that at least we have people talking now. At least people are thinking about it. I agree with all he said. Many positive things have come from this. But what I don't agree is to think that this talk is going to get us anywhere. We have marched for abortion rights. We have marched for pro-life. Millions of people, peacefully. No change. When Parkland happened, I thought, wow, this is young people now. There will be definitely there will be change now. And these young people got together. There was millions of marching. Who the hell is talking about this now? And has any freaking law changed? Yeah, maybe a little bit here and there, but bullshit. Still the same, still out there. And now, of course, who the hell is going to talk about gun control when Americans are feeling like, hey, I need my gun to protect myself from the looters? So, you see, because of vicious cycle, so a new thing will happen. Martin Luther King marched, millions marched with him. Amazing African-American men and women peacefully suffer beatings, incarceration. Yeah, there have been some change, but has there been enough change? Hell no. And then I asked myself, all these companies that are giving $100 million, are they giving it because they really give a shit? Or are they giving it because it's expedient? It's good image. We care about Black Lives Matter. Do you really? Do you really? I applaud. My hero in the African American and the Latino community is LeBron James. Not because he's an amazing basketball player. Honestly, because he is an amazing basketball player, I don't like him at all because he left my Miami Heat. So it's not because of his basketball. But I admire him because he took money out of his own freaking pocket And he created an amazing school in Akron, Ohio. And he gave children that would have no chance, he gave them an opportunity to succeed. And then he educated the parents. And I guarantee you that single-handedly, LeBron James will change the life of millions of African-American kids. I see my brother Carlos Beltran in Puerto Rico with his wife Jessica. You know, they created a school to help poor Puerto Rican children get an education through baseball. They're changing a lot of lives. And there's others like that. But the truth of the matter is that when many of us of color make it, the first freaking thing we do is we get our ass out of our community and we don't look back. And it's sadly because then we go live in the community of those that we have criticized. And don't tell us that we don't have no money. Listen, the wealthiest athletes in the world are people of color. In basketball, they're African American. In soccer, they're Latinos. So we have a lot of money. Some of the most wealthiest musicians are people of color. Some great entrepreneurs are people of color. So we might not have as much as they might have. Who gives a shit? We have enough to begin to change a community. We have enough influence, especially among celebrities, and power to demand the laws change, that our children are not looked upon any longer as a freaking piece of inventory for some rich, greedy son of a bitch to get rich, but that they're looked upon as a human being created by an amazing God. I've seen young kids given. It used to burn it used to kill me at Tallahassee to see how many young African-American and Latinos came in there and did not know how to read or write. If we don't educate our children, they're going to be controlled. And it's not about welfare. It's not about giving them a hand. It's about giving them a hand up. It's not about giving them a freaking fish, but about teaching them how to fish. These kids are creative. These kids have hustle. They have passion. It's about believing in them, loving them, and molding that passion in a positive way. It's about demanding that elected officials change these freaking laws and that they make them right so that the crime fits the punishment. And that children be looked upon not as inventory, but as a human being that can be rehabilitated if given a chance, as I know they can. Listen, I was a horrific sinner, horrible criminal. Today, I'm a respected doctor. Why? Well, I had a chance. I had an opportunity to go back to school to get a Ph.D. I had talent. I had education. I reinvented myself. But if I was a twice convicted drug dealer with a label that said, convicted drug dealer, don't hire me, you know what I was going to do? I'll tell you what I was going to do. I was going to go back to Miami and deal drugs again. I have to eat. I have to feed my children. So we must give people a chance and an opportunity and believe in them. And we must unite. So as we look at this problem that exists today, and as we look at this great movement that's been created, we need to unite as one. And we need to put everything in perspective. And we need to help people like Van Jones that's been fighting for prison reform. And look, he was able to get white people. He was able to get Kushner, Ivanka. He's able to get the Kardashians. He's able to get good white people that are willing to help. We must put pressure on them. We must tell elected officials, bullshit. You're not going to go back to Washington if you're not going to do what we want. And we don't want them to do anything that is bad. We want them to do what is freaking right. We want them to change these freaking laws because unless we change the laws, I don't give a damn how many communities you burn. I don't give a damn how many hundreds of millions of dollars people give to this movement. It ain't going to stop people hating us. It ain't going to stop people looking at us, with dismay. And at the end of the day, we all going to be in prison. So what freaking difference is it going to make? So I believe that it starts with criminal justice reform. And once we reform that and we create the programs and we fight and take all the abusive money that's been given to the stupid ass war on drugs, that cocaine is 15% of all drug overdoses. And that's too many. But 61% are opioids. And unless we go back to pharma and say, hey, listen, drugs don't kill people. We get that. People kill themselves. But damn it, you make a lot of freaking billions of dollars and you have a moral responsibility to get behind us and help us. There's a lot of community centers There's a lot of community organization of faith, people of faith, who God has called them to help their community. But what the hell can they do if they have nothing, if they have no money? Why are we not giving them money? This year alone, me and another white man, a guy that was nothing but a simple school teacher who God called in a little town in Ohio with no money, who God called to send my book to prisons because he has a passion for these young men and women. And he's a white man in a little town that I would venture to say is mostly white. A school teacher, never much money. Well, just this year alone, we've sent over 13,000 books. Think about it. If each one of my books is read by 10 people, that's over 130,000 lives that have been impacted. And I can send you letters of people who have changed their lives and become good, contributing members of society just because they read a book that showed that if someone could change, they could change. If God changed George Valdes, God could change them. If George Valdes could walk away from all the money and power in the world, they could walk away from the desire to have all the money and power in the world. So we believe in them, and it's our mission in the next 5 years to send 1 million books. And I know we will, because God is on our side, and we're not asking anybody for money. We don't. Only one person ever helped Brent. I mean, he got his tax refund check and bought more books. And I keep buying the books. And at the end of the day, there's a lot that we can do with that money. Trust me, it's not like we have burning money in our pocket. So when you tell yourself there's nothing you can do, is bullshit. There's nothing you want to do, because you can. You can do something. You can mentor one child. You can spend time. You can help those non-for-profits that live in those neighborhoods, in those communities. How can I help you? What can I do? If nothing else, take $500, take some Starbucks money, and create a scholarship for a person of color to buy books in school. Get government to change their laws. A lot of our young people cannot go to school because they got to work. Well, damn it. Instead of giving welfare, say, hey, you know what? So here's the deal. We're going to pay you to go get a trade. I mean, I just moved into his house and I can't freaking get an electrician and I can't get a plumber. And when one comes here, it's $120 by the time he walks in through the door. Before he picks up the first freaking wrench. And I got to beg people, because there's not many of them and a lot of need. So when we said there's no jobs for us, no, there's no job that we have prepared ourselves to have. Listen, we can become the next Ben Carson, Michelle Obama. There's a lot of amazing African-American men and women that come from nothing and have made it because somebody believed in them. My God, we had the first black African-American president. We don't even have a Latino president yet. I hope one day. Or a woman president. I hope one day. I got 3 daughters. I want them to have the same opportunity. But we had a black African-American president, which tells us that just because we have a different color skin does not mean that we have a different brain. The human being doesn't even use 1/1,000,000th of the ability of our brain. What it means is that many of us, no one has cared for. But if someone cares for us, and someone invests in us, and someone does something about our lives, we can become very, very, very powerful. And again, we're not going to change the way people listen. If you think this Black Lives Matter movement is going to change the way people look at us, you're full of shit, man. I'm telling you that right off the bat. I've been in this country 54 years. 54 years. I was talking to my mom one day on the phone, and someone said to me, you're in America, speak English. My God, don't they realize that America goes all the way from South America to North America? So yeah, there's ignorant people, but yet there's good people that helped me become a different person, that invested in me, that believed in me. One man that believed in me the most, Ed Odom, he was an agent that spent a long time trying to put me away. David Bora, he believed in me, and he was a DEA agent trying to lock us up forever. They're not my enemies. Their job was to catch me. My job was not to get caught. It was nothing personal. It was all business. So, yeah, there's a bunch of asshole DEA agents, but there's a lot of damn good ones that risk their lives to keep us safe. There's a lot of great believers. Don't judge everyone. Don't throw out the baby because you got to throw out the damn bathwater. There's bad everywhere in life. There's bad Latinos, bad black people, bad white people, bad people, red, pink, of all colors. That's the human race that we live. We can't force people to love us, but we must change people's perception. And by burning down our communities, we ain't changing shit. There's no perception we're changing. All we're doing is affirming what those that hate us believe, that we're worthless, that we're animals. We got to stop that. We got to march and protest peacefully. We got to then act. And we don't act by burning, we act by voting. So we educate our communities to vote. Listen, don't they say that a president without the black vote cannot get elected? Well, so there you go. Or the Latino vote. So therefore, let us not just sit back and protest and not do something about it. Let us begin with number one, changing our criminal justice system so that the law is fair. If it takes 5 grams of crack to get 5 years, why should it take 500 grams of powder? Don't freaking people have a brain enough to realize that it also takes 5 grams of powder to make 5 grams of crack? So let us change that. Let us not sit back anymore. Let us use our power and this movement that is growing to change that. And then let us go back into our communities and change those communities. Let us help our kids to have an opportunity, to have a chance. A child is a person who will become our next president, our next congressman, senator, our next star, our next celebrity, our next pastor, our next priest. Abraham Lincoln said, the fate of humanity lies in the hands of our children. But if our children have no chance, think about how real that is. The fate of humanity lies in the hands of our children. If we have communities of children that are dying and have no chance, this is what you get. This is what we get. We get nothing. We get continual hatred, continual discrimination, continual lack of opportunity. I'm a believer that if someone's done something, I can do it too. I don't cry about things. I didn't cry when I went to prison. I didn't cry when I forfeited millions of dollars and didn't have $1 to buy a freaking candy bar. I made choices in life and those were the consequences. But I had another choice to make. I could sleep 12 hours a day and sleep half of my sentence, as other prisoners believe, or I can do something about my life, educate myself, and come out and have a chance and an opportunity to become somebody respected by society. I'm talking to you today, and our subscriber basis is growing and growing. Why? Because I have a voice that you allow me to come into your homes with. And we're going to create a movement because I believe I'm going to change the world. You know why? Because if you change the life of one child, you change the world. But I believe I'm going to change a lot more lives than one life because I am passionate about this. I don't have to do this. I can just sit back and enjoy the fruit of all the hard work I've done. I'm madly in love with my wife. I love my children. And I can take the money that I spend doing all this with nobody's help and, buy a brand new Rolls Royce or something. But the truth of the matter is that God has moved in my heart and I have a passion. I have a passion to not see this shit go on anymore. And to at least, if nothing else, I'm going to scream from the top of my lungs that things must change. And change must begin at home. We have to be the change we want to see in others. I tell my daughter, I tell my son, the man you become will become the man your children become. If I show you how much I love your mother, you will love your wife the same way. If I beat your mother, chances are you will beat your wife. And chances are my daughter, who one day, if the man doesn't treat her like the queen her father has, she don't have to put up with that shit. She can say, hell no, you're not going to treat me like that. My father showed me how to treat a woman. My father treated my mother like a queen. My father never laid a hand on my mother. My father respected my mother. And I'll be damned if you're not going to do that to me. And if you don't, then get the hell out. I know my daughters will do that because they've seen me do that. So if we expect others to look at us differently, not love us, not stop discriminating against us, we must change their perception of us. We cannot make people love us, but we sure as hell can make people respect us. But respect begins at home. And those of us that make it, we cannot no longer continue to abandon our community. We must follow the LeBron James model. And look at all these athletes that make millions and millions of freaking dollars for playing a game. Praise God. Damn it, you have a moral responsibility. He who much has been given, much is expected. Michael Jordan, I applaud you for giving $100 million over the next 10 years. But you know what? It is not going to stop you from flying your jet, from living in the beautiful mansion I know you live, from driving the cars you drive and living the life you live. And I applaud you for that. But don't let that happen now because there's a movement and you might feel guilty. Do it because you're passionate about changing your damn community. There's a lot of Michael Jordans out there that are never going to get a chance because they'll spend the rest of their life in jail. So if nothing else, change their lives. And let's ask our corporate America to use their power because at the end of the day, what changes a society is money and power. Politicians, and not all of them, there's a lot of great politicians that do it because they feel a calling. But I said many of them are a bunch of whores. So you know what? They're going to go where the dollar is. That's why unless we change the way elections are held, in the sense of all of them should be paid by the federal government so that someone doesn't have to raise $1 billion. Because if you raise $1 billion to run for president, I don't give a damn who you are, unless you're Bloomberg and did it out of your own money, you're going to be indebted to that person that gave that money. And so are you, senators and congressmen and mayors and governors. You are going to be indebted to the one that gives you the money so you can become and have the power you want to have. I know that. You know why I know that? Because I spent millions buying many politicians. Many, at all levels of life. Now, when I talk like that, I'm not talking in general. I know a lot of them will not take a dollar. I know a lot of them that I admire. I knew one, Bob Garcia, was a great, great man of God. You know, he took me to Washington, first congressman in the poorest district in the Bronx. So, you know, there's a lot of great people in all walks of life. There's a lot of great cops. There's a bunch of scumbags. Let's not judge the good ones by the scumbags. There's a lot of them sacrifice their lives for us. And if we talk about defunding and getting rid of the police station in our communities that need it the most, are we willing to live in a jungle? I've seen communities that are in jungle, like in Brazil. Is that what we want? No. Let us change our communities. Let us change the laws. Let us give our children an opportunity to succeed. Let us teach them how to fish instead of giving them a damn fish. Let us not rely on the stupid welfare system that is creating the new slavery. Look how many people don't want to go to work now because the extra $600 is more than they make. So the more money we give to people that really don't need it, people that can work, we take away. We're not helping them. We're hurting them. We take away their creativity. We take away their passion to succeed, their drive, their motivation. So they just sit back and wait for the master to give them another check. And then when the master says jump, they say how high. All this is a vicious cycle. So we put it all in perspective. We got a lot of brains. We got a lot of geniuses. We have a lot of powerful people. We have a lot of motivational people. Let us all get together. Use all those brains that God's given us. Let us come up with a plan. Begin by changing our criminal justice system. Then let's start changing our communities and figure out how we can empower non-for-profits, community outreaches that invest in the life of these young people. Like the pastor that invested in the life of LeBron James, who did not have a father, and created a basketball team. And there's so many LeBron James stories out there, so many of them, of someone that believes in them. That's the common denominator of people who change. They find someone who believes in them. Because when a human being finds that someone believes in them, it is unbelievable and amazing what that human being can do. So today I can continue talking forever and ever. I want to thank you for tuning on to the podcast. And if you enjoy the show, tell others about it. Get people to join our movement. Go to our webpage at www.jorgevaldezphd.com. Join our community, and you'll get a free copy of my latest book, Narco Mindset Freedom Edition. If you're tired of living the life that you're living, if you look at that you're in a vicious cycle, and if you're coming up in life and you want to find meaning and direction, look at narcomindset.com and look at the journal I just created. The journal that can change your mindset, where no longer you will look at and use words like I cannot, but you will ask, how can I? The one that will make you see life in a different perspective, with winning eyes. The one that helped me overcome prison, lose everything, become a millionaire again. The one that allows me to be able to do this podcast for you. The mindset that helps you create a positive family, that looks at your children as the most valuable gift God's given you, and look at your wife as the greatest blessing the Lord has given you. So again, I thank you for tuning into the podcast. I look forward to, in the next couple of weeks, pray for me as I get settled. I don't even have my desk yet. You laugh if you see where I'm doing this podcast from. But anyway, I just felt compelled today to do this for you. So God bless you, and see you next time on the Narco Mindset Podcast.
We've come to the conclusion of this episode of the Narco Mindset Podcast, but your path towards hope, meaning, and redemption continues. For more information and resources to help you on your path towards finding a life built on integrity, honor, and truth, head to JorgeValdesPh.D.com and join our community. We appreciate you joining us for this episode and look forward to helping you find your turning point right here on the Narco Mindset Podcast.